Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Capitol Hill this week, defending the administration's Afghanistan withdrawal, even as he acknowledged that the Taliban has not severed ties to al-Qaeda and other terror groups. Blinken's testimony comes amid reports that U.S. intelligence agencies are seeing early signs that al-Qaeda militants have begun to return to Afghanistan and could again threaten the U.S. homeland in as little as 1 year. Let's bring in Bill Roggio. He is a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defensive Democracies and editor of FDD's Long War Journal. Well, welcome. Thank you. Good to see you. So what's the evidence here that we are seeing, the intelligence agencies are seeing, about a comeback of terror groups in Afghanistan?
Well, I would actually disagree with the intelligence services. It's not a comeback. Al-Qaeda has never left Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda has remained in Afghanistan since the 20 years since the U.S. entered the country. They fled for a brief period of time, but Al-Qaeda has played an instrumental role in the comeback of the Taliban, an instrumental role in this latest offensive. And the U.S. has killed numerous al-Qaeda leaders since the agreement was signed, including a member of al-Qaeda's Shura. His name is Rauf. He was killed in October of 2020. He's ran al-Qaeda's propaganda arm. A member of their organizing committee, reported to Ayman al-Zawahiri, its leader. He was killed in eastern Afghanistan after the U.S. signed the agreement to the Taliban. If he's in Afghanistan, there's hundreds of other al-Qaeda operatives, if not thousands. The United Nations has said that al-Qaeda has at least 500 fighters. I believe that number is far too low. So, I just fundamentally disagree with the idea that there's a return. They're there. The question is are they there in a manner to conduct attacks on the U.S.?
Well, okay, that's one question I want to follow up on. But also, what about the magnitude here? I mean, we know there were a lot of terrorists, ISIS and al-Qaeda, released from prisons when the Taliban took over, and I assume they're returning to the camps and the front lines. What about evidence that is there any evidence that the victory by the Taliban is serving as a kind of recruiting magnet, so people know that it's now safer to go back there? Are they getting younger people from Pakistan or the rest of the Middle East to join their ranks?
Yeah, that's the question. That's what remains to be seen. It's still too soon to see if there's been an influx. But they certainly have a propaganda victory here that al-Qaeda will be capitalizing on. We just have to remember what happened in Iraq and Syria after the Islamic State, which was a branch of al-Qaeda, took over a significant amount of territory in 2013 and 2014. It was a recruiting boon for them. In this case, the Taliban, al-Qaeda's ally, controls an entire country, not a portion of two countries, but an entire country. Now, Afghanistan is a more difficult place to get to, but without a doubt, the jihadist recruiting boon for Afghanistan victory is significant. This is something the administration did not calculate when it factored in its withdrawal from Afghanistan.
We've also seen reports of tension inside the Taliban with some of the Haqqani network, for example, with you have Mr. Haqqani himself running the Interior Ministry, and that some of the so-called moderates are not, are being attacked. Even in one case, there was a report that one was attacked by a member of the Haqqani group. What do you make of that? And is that going to make it more complicated for the Taliban to control any terror outbreak, even if they decide they want to?
I don't put much stock in these rumors. I've been tracking Afghanistan and Pakistan, and I see these rumors year after year, and almost every time they turn out to be false. There's a lot of dark propaganda that goes on both sides of this war. Mullah Baradar, who's the so-called moderate, I always say, show me a moderate Taliban. He's not moderate. He denied it. The Haqqani network denied it. The reports that Baradar went missing, that he was killed, it's not true. He showed up on television. Do they have disagreements, internal disagreements? No more or no less that exist in the U.S. government or any other country in the world. But to think that these disagreements are going to lead to the dissolution of the Taliban or its inability or make it unable to control Afghanistan, I do not agree with those assertions whatsoever. Again, this is just, I've seen this time and time again, and it's almost always proven to be false.
All right. So as we're looking forward, what should we be watching for in Afghanistan? I mean, we're going to get reports of camps growing and developing, or we're going to have to wait until there's an actual terror attack somewhere that can be traced to Afghanistan before we know what's happening.
Yeah, without a U.S. presence and without an organized resistance in Afghanistan, the Taliban defeated the resistance that existed in Panjshir. It's now scattered in the hills. The information coming from Afghanistan on the public side is going to dry up. It's already starting to dry up. That is going to be really difficult to monitor. But we've seen some, for instance, Osama bin Laden's security chief, his name is Dr. Amin al-Haq. He returned to his home in eastern Nangarhar province. He probably was somewhere in Afghanistan or if not Pakistan. Now the question is as you noted, will al-Qaeda start establishing new training camps? We've known they've run training camps under the nose of the U.S., NATO, and Afghan forces while the U.S. was there. So the likelihood of al-Qaeda camps popping up is significant. And I would expect trainers to go to foreign countries and pass on the lessons learned from Afghanistan.
All right. Mr. Roggio, thanks very much. Appreciate your coming in. Very interesting.